Hey everyone, this is Carlos, founder and CEO at Product School. Today I'm here with Angela Gallardi, who's the CEO at Climb Credit. Hey Angela,
Hi, good to be here.
good to see you and your dog. Um,
He's gone. I kicked him out. He started barking.
so full disclosure, we are proud Climb customers for a while, and I'm excited to have you on the show because I believe in the mission of your company, and I believe there should be more access to education. So let's start from the very beginning. Why don't you tell us a bit more about how you landed here?
Yeah, so my journey starts with about 8 years working in traditional financial services. So I worked at American Express and Citibank for about 8 years, and my role there was all credit underwriting. So I was responsible for building the algorithms and the developing the policies on who we would approve and deny for credit. I worked both on the consumer side of the business and small business. And what I saw when I worked in the traditional financial ecosystem and in traditional credit markets is that the big banks are set up to really help people who already have an income and already have great credit. But when people have limited credit or maybe not great credit, or when people have not great income or no income, typically the products that are available to them are limited. And so I, in 2012, quit working at the big banks and have been on my journey now to make the credit markets and credit products more accessible to all people. And that's the work that we're doing at Climb.
So take me back to that moment when you're like, okay, I'm going to quit from my cozy job and really jump off the cliff and try to figure out how to open this parachute.
Yeah, so I was working at Citibank, and I had a great job with a great boss, worked with really amazing coworkers, but I had just had my first daughter. She's now 10 years old, and it's sleepaway camp, so it was a long time ago, it feels. But I just had her, and I came back from maternity leave, and I feel like having children for me helped put working on sort of like a new bar, right? Like there was a new hurdle because now not only was it what I did all day, but it was also what kept me away from my children, or at the time, my one child. I have two now. And so I would say like the decision to leave was really that if I'm going to spend my time away from my kids every day working, I want to be working towards something where I feel like I can make a real impact, and I'm really excited about it. And so I decided that, some of the stability and coziness of working at a big bank was less important. What was more important was sort of the mission of what I was doing and the outcomes on the other side.
And then you never look back because I saw you started a company that actually got acquired by Cabbage. I just realized I used Cabbage to get our PPP loan.
Yay! Awesome. That's great.
And then you joined Climb as a COO originally, right?
That's right. So I started a company called Orchard back in 2012 with a few other co-founders, and we scaled that company and then eventually sold it to Cabbage. And then I joined Climb initially as the COO. And the reason I joined Climb was because I was excited about the mission of the business and the ability to help students who want to attend schools like the product school be able to actualize their dreams through efficient and affordable payment and financing options. I was the COO for about a year and a half, and then in May of 2018, me and the former CEO made the mutual decision that he would move on and do other things, and he's been very successful at investing since then, and a really wonderful advisor to me. And I would move into the CEO role, and so I've been at the CEO job now for a little over 3 years and loving every day of it.
Let's talk about the CEO job description because personally I'm very curious. Like I've been reinventing my own job, for the last years because what I was doing at the very beginning when it was just me and a couple of interns is different than what we are doing today. So what does your day-to-day look like?
Yeah, so my day-to-day certainly has changed a lot. A lot of it depends on whether we're actively fundraising or, whether it's conference season or whatever it is. So one of the fun things about being a CEO is that your job is always evolving, both with the needs of the company, but also the needs of the market. Right now, I would say my time is focused in a few different areas. So one is investor relations. So making sure that I'm engaging with both our board, the people who've invested in our business, and the market, who, other potential investors on both the equity side of the business. So people who would write us, checks for our operations to, own part of the company, and then also on the debt side. So we raise money to then be able to make loans to students who are attending the schools we work with. So that's a big part of my job. And then the rest is all around, making sure the culture is operating, well, and people understand the strategy of the business. And then every once in a while, it's solving those big, meaty, challenging problems that, sort of roll uphill to the CEO.
So for people who are not familiar with Climb yet, what is the status of the company, and what makes you so unique from any other loan providers out there?
Yeah, so we partner with great schools like Product School to help them enroll more students affordably and efficiently. So we have a number of different products that we offer to schools to then offer their students as they enroll. Our most important product is a loan product, which essentially is a loan from a consumer perspective. It looks just like a regular loan. You pay it off over 3 to 5 years in low monthly payments, and that's the way you can cover the cost of the education. On the school side, it looks a little bit different because we, number one, we due diligence all the schools we work with. So we don't just work with every school that we come across. We want to make sure the schools that we're partnered with are delivering a good outcome to the students who attend. And we also set up the structure with the school so the school can have some financial upside in the student's success. So those are kind of some key features that are different than a traditional student loan. We also have some other products that we offer, like a 0% APR installment plan. We now have payment products that we offer to help schools sort of streamline the facilitation of any way that someone might want to pay to go to school.
So as someone who obviously comes from a finance background, but it's also working in the intersection between finance, technology, education, how do you think about the future of education or student financing?
Yeah, I mean, I think that one of the big misses that has existed in education finance is a lack of understanding from the financial providers, particularly, whether it's a private student lender or the federal government, who really is the largest issuer of student loans in this country. Their understanding of the outcomes that the students who they are providing financing to experience on the other side of the program. And you'll see, I think this is more typical in sort of more traditional higher education, less typical in kind of vocational and trade schools. But in traditional higher education, the outcomes that someone is going to experience is really fuzzy, right? So if you go to get a bachelor's degree and major in English, history, whatever it is, the outcome for you is really unknown. It depends a lot on the economy you come out of, maybe what your interests are, who your network, and whether or not you go and get additional education, whether it's a certification program or a master's or a law degree, medical degree. And I think that we need to hold those programs, those bachelor's programs, to a higher standard, that people coming out on the other end should have a really defined outcome that they can feel like they can count on. Because otherwise, the debt load that we're asking them to take on is really unfair to not know what lays on the other side of that investment.
I completely resonate with that, and I think that was what made me want to work with you in them, because I've met so many. We have a lot of students that come to us after taking, for example, an MBA, and they'll be like, "Hey, I just took this massive loan for 2 years plus the opportunity cost because it's a full-time program. And then
Yeah.
during this program, I realized I want to be a product manager. And like, great, where were you, 2.5 years ago, right? I mean, I'm not saying that MBAs are not good for anything, but I believe in options in general. And I think when there is more education in the market for people, they're able to make better decisions for themselves.
Yes, and I think we've always thought about higher education in this high stakes way, right? Where you graduate from high school and you must go to college. It has to be a good college, and you got to finish, and then you must get a master's degree, and it must be from a good school, and then that's how you can really get set on your way. And I think the market is starting to, both the job market, but also the learners, the people that are seeking education, are all starting to realize that it doesn't have to be that way, that we can learn skills in a more focused and bite-sized way, that you can go to product school, get like the basic education around what it means to be a product manager and the kind of core skills, go apply that in the market, right? And if you hate it, which you probably won't, because being from everyone I know who's a product manager, they love their jobs. It's a great job. But if you hate it, the stakes are pretty low. And if you love it, you can go invest in more training, right? And whether that's sponsored by your employer or you pay for it yourself, can be individualized. But I think the idea being that it's lower stakes, and it's not such a one track.
And Angela, for you as a person, like now, running such a bigger organization, how do you think, your leadership style evolved over time? And what are some of those marks that you think help you get to where you are?
Yeah. So I would say there have been like a few sort of points in my career where I've realized that I needed to evolve my leadership style. At Climb, I'd say the first one was after I took on the CEO role. I, for a period of time, tried to be the CEO and the COO, which is not something I would recommend to anybody. And I actually, a friend of mine works at Inc. magazine, and she wrote an article about this where I talked about imposter syndrome, and it's all out there if you Google me. But one of the things I talked about in that article and in a video that goes with it is about how someone from my team came to me and said, Angela, we all love you. You're doing a great job, but you're trying to do 2 jobs at once, and that's not going to work out. And so it became very clear that I needed to start sort of not sweating the small stuff, getting uninvolved in the day-to-day kind of minor operations of the business, and really focus on the things that I needed to be focused on as CEO. And I would say the theme for me has been consistently through my time as CEO, needing to be reminded of that in some way, shape, or form, right? And always that feedback that gets me to realize that it's time for me to take that next step in my leadership style, and how I'm approaching my job comes from someone that's on my team. And so I think one thing that's really important, and like a piece of advice I would give to anyone who's in any type of management role, or any role, but I think it's more specific to managers, is to always like ask and take feedback really well. Because in the end, particularly if you're a CEO, because you don't have a manager really around to give you feedback, but anywhere down the chain, the people who are going to know how to help you do your job the best are the people who work for you, right? And if you create a safe space for them to come to you and say, you're trying to do too many things, you need to make decisions quicker, you need to be more focused externally than internally, like this is feedback I've received. But if you get that feedback and you take it, you'll one, empower your team, right? And make them feel closer to you and more connected to you, but you'll also be better at your job. And what a great combination. So I'd say like my biggest piece of advice there is that my leadership style has always evolved because I've had people on my team who are willing to push me.
And credit to you for creating that safe space, as you named it, and be vulnerable even now, right? Because I think this misconception around CEOs or founders have to be like superheroes that have everything figured out. And I think once you kind of take off that cape and realize that, well, we're here, we're in this together, right? And
Yes.
it creates in general a much more healthier culture.
That's right. We have a value at Climb, succeed together. And I think that really sort of encapsulates that, right? Where we're all in it together. Even when a company gets bigger and has more products and is doing more things, it's still one company. And so I always try to instill in everyone that like there isn't a reality where one person is successful at the company and the other person isn't. That success is a shared experience and something that we're all going to do together. And so if you're not actualizing and performing at your best, right? Somebody else telling you that and telling you how you can improve is them really living up to that value, right? Because they know if you live up to your best, then you will help the company succeed, and therefore we all succeed together.
You touch on a topic that is core to my heart, which is values, right? And how to align them to the mission of your organization. You obviously are a mission-driven company. Obviously, the team grows and so many people join. How do you ensure consistency and make sure that people, I wouldn't say not that drink the Kool-Aid, but they really embrace those values and make them theirs?
Yeah, so I would say number one is incorporating some questions that are consistent amongst all interviews of new employees around the values of the company. Some people might call it a culture interview. I've heard that before, but we prefer to call it a values interview because our view is that culture is something that should change and evolve. And if you only hire people that fit the culture, then the culture will be at a stasis, which is probably not a good thing. But a values interview is one where you can say, okay, we know the values that we all hold to be true about what we want to be doing as a business and how we want to be interacting with each other. What are the questions that we would want to ask about those values where we can extract from an interview that somebody lives up to them? And so that's something that we've worked on really hard over the last year and have rolled out. And then I think the other thing is just making sure that the values are woven into the day-to-day experience of employees. So an example of something that we do is we have in Slack a integration with this company Lattice that we use as our performance management system. And Lattice has a feature where you can praise people. And so what happens on a fairly regular basis is all of a sudden in the general chat pops up a praise. And it is amazing how, I would say, how used that feature is amongst the whole company and how cross-functional it is, right? So an engineer praising a salesperson, an account manager, praising someone on the finance team. And it really does, because they're so, every company is deeply cross-functional. But what we do in that is we have the person submitting the praise select the value that the person exhibited. We make sure to talk about that. So I think just instilling those little crumbs of the values into the day-to-day experiences of employees is crucial to making sure that people remember what they are and see how they kind of come to life.
Love that. We actually use a similar tactic. We have a channel on Slack. We used to use it on the general channel, but there were so many praises that at some point we had to create a separate channel. But it really changed. As you said, it doesn't change the values, it changes how we operate in a way, or the culture, because we used to do those type of celebrations in a Friday all hands meeting. And now people don't have to wait an entire week and unmute their mic in front of the entire company to say thank you. You can do it on the spot.
Yes. I think that's, and also I've noticed that as a company grows, what you can do in an all hands meeting starts to shift, and so being flexible, I think that's a great example from you on how you were flexible in terms of the management of your company and seeing, okay, now we've moved to a point where praising people in the all hands meeting doesn't make any sense. We're going to move it to Slack, and then we're going to move it to different channels. And that's what leadership is all about, is recognizing when a change needs to be made to how a company operates, even something as small as that, and then having the courage to make that change and live in your truth of this is how I think we'll be better and executing on it.
Something that's really cool about what you guys do is that from the outside, it doesn't feel like a financing company. Of course, we provide finance to students, but you have a deep product expertise. Like your product is integrated with our product, and like there's a seamless flow between the point of sale all the way to finance. Like for you as a CEO, like how do you structure your product team to make sure that this is a tech company and not your traditional financing company?
Well, first of all, we have great product managers, product leadership, and engineers and engineering leadership. And one of our product managers is a graduate of the product school. So, but what we do is I think, again, it's about being nimble. So we, historically had, one product team that worked on everything. And over time, we now have developed pods where we have one pod of engineers and product managers that are focused just on the school experience. We have another that's focused just on the student experience, and so on. And that's been really important to creating that, I would say, that expertise around, for instance, on the school experience, like what do schools really need? What features and products do they really need to be able to more seamlessly offer the financial services that we've produced and that we offer to them? And having some specialization, I think we've found has been really helpful to building like a really thoughtful roadmap that really meets the needs of all the constituents.
So I find it, from a product perspective, I find it fascinating. So in general, you have to think about schools as a user, which is different from the student, which is a different type of user. And I think in general, the trend that I've seen in fintech is that it doesn't need to be ugly. It doesn't need, like, you can make something beautiful that users love. Like, it doesn't need to be complicated.
Yes, that is the one of the big sort of fintech learnings is you see a company like Square, right? And Square's products are beautiful. Actually, an employee of mine from Orchard, my former company, is a product manager at Square, so I'm very proud of that. But their products are beautiful. Those products there have been point of sale products like that in the market for years. They were just always really ugly. And I think Square and a number of other companies have really upped the game in terms of like what kind of user experience people should expect when they're interacting with a financial services company, and that having the best capital or, that's not a thing. No one has a lock on that, right? And the way you win is in part by making it really easy for people to understand the terms and conditions of the products you offer, especially if they're financial products, and then to be able to convert. There's nothing worse than seeing a pop-up that says you have to print something off and go find a fax machine. I have to say, in my years of working in financial services, like I've run product experiences where a fax machine was required, and it was, you kind of cringe when you see that. And so, but there's no reason for it, right? Like our technology's moved beyond that. And so I think fintech is really, the fintech industry has really pushed the bar in terms of the kind of experience people should expect.
It's attracting really good talent, because you mentioned Square, and there are other companies out there that really have some of the best designers and product managers and data scientists in the world.
That's right.
So now, as I think about the future of financing, or like, say someone is listening to this and saying, hey, this sounds really cool, but I had no idea. Like, how can someone at least learn more about their options and get the most out of your product?
Yeah, so I would say, first of all, if you're considering product school or any other school, the first kind of layer of research is talk to the school directly, right? Whether it's going to the website or calling an admissions director, but definitely get on the phone with them and ask them about what their options are. And then if it's a school that works with Climb, which hopefully it is, we have done a lot of work to make sure that the options that we offer are thoughtfully and well laid out for students who are interested. So please feel free to go to the Climb website, put your information in there. You can apply. If a loan is what you're looking for, you can apply for a loan, and there's no impact to your credit score until you actually enroll in the school. So you can apply, see what, rates and terms you get without any downside. And then I would say the last thing is we have an amazing team of student success representatives who are, sorry, I just had a pop up on my screen, of student success representatives who are work from 9 to 9 Eastern time, and can answer any questions that you have via email, chat, phone, and know all about our options, know all about the schools that we work with, and have, I think, probably the highest NPS rating of any customer service team that I've ever encountered. So I encourage everyone to, if you're curious and you have questions, please reach out because they will definitely help you.
And I feel obligated to ask you this question, which is, what is the best financial advice you've ever received?
Okay, so the best financial advice is it's all about diversification, okay? So think about your life as a balance sheet, okay? You have all of the money that you have, and hopefully you have some, and then you have all of the obligations that you owe. And on the asset side of your balance sheet, the money that you have, a lot of people make the mistake when they're just starting out, just starting to build a nest egg, to take all of the money they have and put it into the safest thing that they can because they're worried about losing it. And I know I was oriented that way, and I know a lot of people are. But what I always recommend is take a small percentage of the money that you have, an amount that if you were to lose it, you would be okay, and put it in something that's a little riskier, right? An example would be, as we talked about when we were chatting earlier, would be like something like Bitcoin. Maybe you have a friend who's starting a company, you could give them a little money, whatever it is. Find areas where there's potential upside, and put an amount of money, even if it's $100, $50, an amount of money you're okay to lose as a percentage of your total savings there, so that you can start to get used to seeing what it's like to have a diversified sort of investment portfolio. That's the best advice I got. Now, it doesn't hurt that I got that advice back in 2016 and I put a little money in Bitcoin. But I do believe that there are those opportunities out there for people. And often people get worried because they don't have a lot of money and think that those opportunities aren't available to them. And I think that's, there's just, now with the internet and all these companies creating really interesting investment vehicles, there's always interesting places you can put even a little bit of money, to start getting some practice of having that diversified portfolio.
Well, Angela, it's been a pleasure to chat and learn more about your own story. Is there anything else you would like to add?
No, I just am so happy to be here. I'm so happy about the work you guys do. Again, we have one of our product managers went to product school, and she's incredible, and does amazing work for Climb every day, some of which you and your learners experience when you interact with our products. So we will be forever grateful for that and for all of the great work you do for everybody else.
Thank you so much for your time. Bye-bye.